Mr. Stafford.
How you doing, sir?
How you doing?
I'm good.
It'll be a quickie tonight.
Should be.
Yeah.
Depends on how much we dig into this landscape stuff.
Not much.
You sure you don't want to debate the height of a tree?
Yeah, I'm positive. I want to wait and see what the city's council has to say. Hello.
Hello. So, just a reminder, I know Crystal was bringing it up, but we're having the joint City Council Planning Commission, and the city clerk said she wasn't able to get a hold of you to see if you're available for the 27th of this month.
Well, she has my number.
Yeah. I know, 'cause I gave it to her. 29th.
I'm available.
Okay. She said she tried to email you.
I haven't checked my email in 2 days.
Okay.
So I can call her tomorrow.
I would, just to,
Yeah.
I mean, not to relay the message.
Yeah, I'll
Just
call
to-
her tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know if Melvin is out of town?
I'm not positive. He was at our Rotary board meeting last night. He wasn't at our meeting this morning, so I don't remember him saying anything about being out of town. So he may show up.
Yeah, Crystal thought he was out of town because he didn't show up, but I didn't know if you know for sure or not. If we have 3, that's quorum, so.
Ian?
Evening.
Hello.
Hello. Well, you must be Catherine Cottle.
Yep, Kathy.
Ian.
Nice to meet you, Ian.
David Seals.
Nice to meet you, David.
Todd Stafford.
Hi, Todd.
Goodies for us today?
Well, quiet in here.
She has goodies for it.
Thought it describes what you guys did talk about.
Love it.
Why does that look like me a lot of mornings?
That was me this afternoon.
So is that the new City of Wasilla logo? No, I mean the little picture on the back. I noticed it on our website.
Yep. This is HR's. They just gave me a bag of these. Okay.
You can't leave her out. Definitely.
Well, she can always give it to me tomorrow.
I like to write down the hall from
It's
each other
better
or
in
anything,
public.
you know?
That's true.
Hi there. Mentally only. Hey, how's it going?
How you doing, Melvin?
Had a bag full of money over there.
That is kind of money looking.
Bet you get a nickel for that on the street.
Oh, yeah.
Did they tell you you can pick up your packet early?
No, but I read it online anyway.
Rod and I elected, usually a couple hours of that, putting it on. Right here.
Yeah.
I like to take mine home, that way I can mark and take my notes ahead of time, so that I'll keys and stuff. So I'm like, all right, when we get here, I remember that I have quite.
I got you some examples like you wanted.
I didn't know for the longest time.
Oh, well,
either.
I do.
I mean, again, you can read it online, like having a hard copy. To me.
Well, and that's just it, reading it online
Yeah.
is one thing.
Yeah.
That's why I write it down.
Being able to set like, okay, here's the map and here's this and using the map.
Yeah, because I had to keep flipping
Yeah,
pages back
exactly. You're having
online
to go
and stuff, yeah.
back and
So,
then-
no, that's nice to know that I can get it all the time.
And then if you don't grab it for whatever reason, like today I forgot. I grab it, so I grabbed it a couple hours ago. Maybe it's upstairs at the planning office.
Well, at least I know where to go get it then. Thank you. I feel like a little kid sitting in this chair.
There's a lever on the side. Go up, down. Yeah, there you go.
Speaking of devil.
Please enter your participant or moderator code, followed by the pound key.
And it's been that much.
Please say your name, followed by the pound key. You are the first participant in the conference.
Maybe I'll labels.
I mean, granted, it's not hard to find us, but. Here, is there a way to have our address removed from here like the council members do? Is there a reason why there's aren't?
They get hand delivered just to the clerk's office. Yours could get mailed out.
Okay, that's why.
My address on there is a P.O. box, so.
Does anyone? Oh, I need to get one, especially since I'm running for council. I didn't myself. It's too late.
I would like to call the regular planning commission meeting of August 8th to order at 6 p.m. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Commissioner Crafton?
Here.
Commissioner Seals?
Here.
Commissioner Schaal?
Here.
Commissioner Cottle?
Here.
Commissioner Stafford?
Here.
Commissioner Cottle, can you please lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
to the
republic for which it stands,
one nation, under
God, indivisible,
and justice.
for all.
Does the commission have any adjustments to tonight's meeting agenda? Hearing no changes to the agenda will stand as presented. We have a report from the city deputy administrator.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few things. The Chamber of Commerce and the city, we're doing a Blooming in Wasilla contest that's on Facebook. People are submitting their beautiful landscape this time of year, so we thought it was appropriate to start showing off a little bit of our city. The city of Wasilla now has an app, so if you go to the App Store, explore Wasilla, it has all the updated stuff. You can get notifications either if there's a meeting or an event. If you like to do things on your phone, you can do that now, explore Wasilla. You might be watching the train depot. We're continuing to develop that infrastructure. We'll have both the north end parking lot paved here into this month, and then on the joining, it would be the north end would be the new gazebo that has been designed. We're in a lot of conversations with the railroad. They're being really cooperative about stopping there in the spring, and so we'll be reaching out and letting the public know what we're doing with that important piece of infrastructure. Thanks.
City attorney, online.
Ms. Wells? Is anyone on the line?
Anyone wishing to step forward to discuss anything not on the agenda tonight can do so now.
Go ahead.
Well, thanks.
Please write your name and contact information on this sign-up sheet and state your name for the record.
I will. And I know your time is your inventory. I'm going to use it wisely, and I'll add my name and residence address. My name is John Klapperick. For the last 35 consecutive years, I have made a career out of enhancing small to medium-sized businesses' profitability in South Central Alaska, particularly Wasilla. And most recently, I was the Matsu Borough Planning Commission Chairman for 6 consecutive years, so I understand the crucial role planning plays in our community. And most recently, the last few years, people that wanted to move to Wasilla and or expand their business in Wasilla did not look at the Planning Commission as something that say, come to us and we'll help you. It definitely was a obstructionist. So I highly encourage you to look at the revisions that do not meet the test of common sense in the restrictions for a site plan. There are so many instances that have kept people out of Wasilla and or expanding to Wasilla to increase sales tax because of the current Planning Commission regulations. I've looked at more business plans than anyone in this room the last 30 years. In every industry, automotive, retail, and I know the small margins that exist. And when I look at a business plan and I'm here to help them increase their profitability, they say, I wanted to expand, but the city of Wasilla, I just couldn't pass the muster of that expense and that ridiculousness about this tree wasn't allowed, but this was. And 3 spaces, and you need a landmark over here. And so the moral of my story is, if you're open for business, please consider the changes that are coming up later on this agenda or in future meetings that can make it reasonable for people to expand and do what you need, and that's increased sales tax. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Kim Kalmbach. I own property in Wasilla. I own 3 small houses on Lake Street down by Carter Park. And I'm here to talk about the city's landscape ordinance. I find it inflexible, onerous, and don't think it necessarily improves aesthetics. My 3 single-family houses are located in a commercial zone on a lawn-lined street. If you've ever been down there, it's all lawns, and then there's Carter Park. In 2015, I obtained a land use permit so that I could convert one of the structures into a commercial use. To meet the landscape requirements in 2015, I had to plant 2 trees and 3 shrubs, provide parking, period. It was painless. Consequently, this professional office space fits very well with the surrounding residential properties. People don't know that's a business. They don't know. They all look the same. In 2021 or 22, I looked into getting a similar commercial use permit for another one of the houses. Because of the new landscape ordinance, I would have to place a planting bed, however wide, on my small lot. Not only would not only would it obscure the lawn-lined visual aesthetic of the street. Oh, here, wait a minute, I skipped something, sorry. I would have to plant numerous trees, shrubs, and over 100 perennials, okay? When I see 150 perennials around the lawn, I see weeds. And so it would have changed the whole character of that neighborhood. And so, and create a big expense for me. It wouldn't have really shielded anything. I didn't understand why a little house with a lawn would have to be shielded from the people driving by. And anyway, you got my point. But consequently, I didn't do it. So I didn't, it's not a whole lot of sales tax with a commercial rental. I kept it in residential. Some little town site lawns in that area are 50 feet wide, yet they're expected to get 15-foot wide planting beds. I served on the Wasilla Planning Commission at the time the initial Wasilla zoning ordinance was written. It was designed to be a flexible plan. Unlike Euclidean zoning, the Wasilla zoning ordinance envisioned a wide variety of uses within various zones. For example, what I just described on my street. So on top of this, there is a one-size-fits-all landscape ordinance that's completely inflexible. Everything's the same. I'm going to ask you specifically, roll this ordinance back to what it was when it was reasonable in 2015. Thank you.
Good job.
Amen. I like you. You gonna go?
I want to state for the record that the city attorney is here now. Do you have a report for us this evening?
I don't have a report, but I do several comments on various issues. I don't know.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak?
I'm just going to be more or less an echo chamber. I have built, my name's Robert Friesen. I don't live in Wasilla, I have property here, but I'm through with the city of Wasilla. I wouldn't build a doghouse in the city of Wasilla. I'm done. The harassment is absolutely unending. It doesn't stop. The ridiculousness of it. Absolutely, the wrong color of rock, gravel in the landscaping plan. She wanted, well, okay, they wanted me to move a building back that I already had built legally with permits. They wanted me to move it back 5 foot because it was too close to the road to suit her taste. I said, you can't do that. It's on a cement slab. She said, well, they moved the one down on the Palmer Wasilla Highway down. I said, I'm not Exxon Valdez or BP. That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The man's right. Chase all the business out of Wasilla. Much less, ain't nobody gonna come back. If they got a brain, if they do any checking at all, they won't build here. It doesn't end. It's arbitrary, ridiculous harassment.
I'm not a good speaker, and I can't hear, so it's a bad combination. But my name is Trail Wills, and I had a very poor experience trying to work with the city of Wasilla. I bought some industrial properties in an industrial ghetto, and the nightmare that I endured with certain people that were aggressively pursuing me and what they thought I should be required to do. Color of rocks, 300 flowers, 400 bushes, you know, it's just ridiculous. I made the mistake when I walked in to get my building permit. What's your landscape plan? Gravel, corner to corner, just like everything else around me. Bad thing to say. Made an enemy. Drones flew over. Pull up, take pictures. Now, if you drove by 1341 West Schaal Circle, you would see one of the nicest buildings with the nicest landscaping that I did on my own after I spent $3,500 for a landscape architect that I couldn't use, couldn't make certain people happy, had to go to the mayor. The mayor took twice, interceded on my behalf to try to make things better. If I had been dealing with a reasonable person, and you need to look at it case by case, industrial property shouldn't be held to the same standard as a Taco Bell on the main drag, but it is, and it's crazy. You know, I bought the property for a place to park bulldozers, and it wasn't treated well, and I wasted a lot of money. And the person on the other side of the desk was eager to spend my money. City of Wasilla not open for business, as it was stated. That's how I felt. I wish I'd have bought in Palmer. I'm over the hump now. I got a nice place. The property across from me, there was a diesel shop that would have generated revenue every day. And they were scared away, and they sold the property, even though I said, hey, I can help get you through this. They don't have the teeth they represent themselves as having, because they're aggressive, and they tell you things that aren't true. But you need to reform it, you know, revisit this whole thing, because it's crazy, and it's just way too over the top. Look case by case. If you're at the end of a road and a destination and industrial property, you shouldn't be held to the same standard as the Taco Bell and the main drag. You know, just be reasonable. I don't know exactly what you're proposing for changes, but boy, you need to change a lot. It was a terrible experience for me, and I'm pretty well known for what I went through. And okay, anyway, is that my 30 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So there's a couple people here that were, you know, this has been 4 years now, I think, when I pulled the trigger on that were here. I tried really hard. I brought pictures of what how the city maintains and landscapes their properties. It's terrible, but I'm held to a higher standard, and I know so many people that will tell you the same thing. It was just crazy. Thank you for your time.
Can I get you to write your name and contact information on
Yeah,
this?
it's right here. Yeah.
I did not write my name.
I'm going to have you do that too, sir.
I don't know how to spell it.
And I do invite you to drive by my property. I did it all by myself because the rocks were the wrong color, and I didn't like my bushes, and didn't like anything. So. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Ryan Friesen. I have several pieces of property in the valley here. Most of them are in Wasilla. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. This is a day that I've prayed for a long time. There's somebody that's not here that I thank God for. is the most unreasonable planning commission I have ever seen in my entire life. I could go on all day with stories. One of them in particular was the city of Wasilla put a blanket lien on everything I owned for $15,000 of failure to collect sales tax on a piece of property. So they put a blanket lien on everything. I tried to sit down with people. One person that's not here that's retired, and he was reasonable. The other one, she's not here and is incredibly irresponsible and you could not even reason with this person. I tried to use what I had these people come look at my pieces of property. It didn't matter. They said, well, it was built for this. It didn't matter if they were living in it or not. One person said, yes, I understand, you're right. But then once he realized what I was getting at, he said, well, we can't talk about it. Well, you can contest our rules. I said, well, who do you contest them to? Us. So they put a $15,000 blanket lien on everything I owned, but I could contest it to them. Like I said, that woman that's not here, I thank God she is not here. There has never been anybody in my entire life that I prayed for them to lose their job. But it sounds like she has, and I thank God for that. My name's Ryan Friesen. I have several pieces of property, but I may start building again if you guys do something different with your planning commission. It is incredibly ridiculous. You couldn't even reason with the person.
Can I ask a question? Just because I'm not sure how.
No, not this time. Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Okay, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Commissioner Crafton moves to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
So move. Commissioner Sajal.
There are no objections. The consent agenda is approved as presented. Ms. Nygard, would you please introduce item number 1 and provide the staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So we have item R2301, accompanied with resolution 2314. Applicant is Gerald Neeser, owner, Gerald Neeser Rev Trust, rezone of Lot 3, Olympic Edition 1 subdivision, from commercial to industrial. Lot area is 8.91 acres. Location is southwest of West Boardwalk Drive, Wasilla. Zoning, as I said, is commercial. You'll see accompanied the summary facts. Based on the findings of compliance with applicable criteria established in Section 1616-070 and 1660-050 of the Wasilla Municipal Code, staff recommends approval of the rezone request. These lots are currently zoned commercial, but the applicant's requesting to rezone the lot to industrial. This rezone would be a logical rezone of the industrial zoning district, is consistent with existing development in the area to the north and east.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to make a presentation regarding the proposed request?
My name is Chris Neeser. I'm speaking on behalf of Gerald Neeser. That's an interesting start. But I'm trying to pave the way to enter Wasilla, so yes. And I'm speaking in support of the rezone. It sounds like I'm not sure if that's an official approval, but I don't want to reiterate the questionnaire covered most of it, so I just want to relay the factors that we support it for. Is the soil investigation. I did email that, and there's a photo with the corresponding soil log, which shows what we found, which was pretty extensive fill and debris that really makes it not viable for being used for a commercial site or building purposes. there was just stuff everywhere on that. So that's what led us to seek the industrial zoning, as it can easily be used for a holding yard and construction activities. Also, the parcel was buffered by the Alaska Railroad, and to the south and to the west is the city limit. So it's not in the city, it's quite soundly on the further of the city. So I think that's helpful for industrial. Finally, the fact that industrial is extremely limited in the city. I'm not sure there's any undeveloped industrial property, certainly none for sale. So I think that's leads us to the best option for us is to rezone this parcel, since there is no available industrial property otherwise. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Speak to that.
Public comments portion of the public hearing is now open for the rezone permit 23-01. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? You have 5 minutes to provide your comments.
I have 4 or 5 lots across Parks Highway from this piece of land, considering. I couldn't think of a better.
Just state your name for the
Robert
record.
Friesen.
Thank you, Robert.
I think it's a great idea. I don't know what else to do with that land. I think the guy's got a good idea. It should be industrial. I'm 100% in favor of it. That's all I have to say. Sounds like a good idea to me.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Public comments portion of the public hearing is closed. With no other audience comments, does the applicant have anything else to address? I now need a motion to either approve or deny rezone permit 2301, resolution serial number 2314.
Commissioner Crafton moves to approve Resolution 2301.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Stafford, second.
All in favor?
Do we have discussion? I have a couple questions for the applicant.
Sure.
Would you come back up, just answer some questions easier? Very good. So your plan is for a holding yard. From what I understand, you recently purchased, it was 3 different lots, lot 1, 2, and 3, correct?
Gerald Neeser did, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Is the entire, all lots 1, 2, and 3 going to be fenced in and used as holding?
No.
Or just lot 3?
Just 3 at this time. I think we're going to keep those commercial and envision possibly that be commercial supporting the industrial operation, which would just be a holding yard until anything else is viable.
Okay. And then the holes that were dug, did you guys dig them during your due diligence or after the fact?
That was before. We knew what was there before we even purchased it.
Okay.
It's a weird thing when you search Wasilla property, the real estate search engines don't appear to know that there's industrial property in Wasilla, so it's a ridiculous little thing that caught us. We did not realize that there was actually industrial property. We thought it was commercial with a variance. Sort of silly, but that's actually what happened. We just didn't know industrial property was part of the zoning, so, yeah.
Okay. And then the road around it, has there been any thought on withstanding the equipment you're planning on parking?
I don't see any issue with that. All of our equipment is geared to run on any road in Alaska. It's the low boys, have all the tires necessary. Everything is trucked in according to DOT regulations and everything. That road's just recently, looks like it was done, so I think it's up to any standards that are needed.
Perfect. That's all. I have one question for Crystal. Thank you. Ms. Nygard, did we have any rules about burying trees on the properties inside the city of Wasilla?
Thank you. I'm going to refer to the attorney since I'm the acting.
That's
planner.
fine.
I don't get too much in the weeds.
Yeah.
When considering a is this on? It is, yes, okay. So when considering a rezone, you're really looking at whether or not the acreage meets the minimum requirement and whether or not the conditional use permit criteria are met. That said, the more important considerations, this is a legislative decision, right? It's unlike what we normally do, and this is probably an important thing to note. What happens is the commission looks at the application and determines if it seems like a good idea based on the criteria. And then your recommendation goes up to council, and council makes a legislative decision. So it's not a quasi-judicial decision. It's not like a lot of the hearings that you do. So the requirements for how the property is developed or used really isn't before the commission here, because we're really looking at whether or not we want to rezone this parcel and whether or not it meets the requirements for that. So based on size, and based on location and contiguity, you know, is it over 2 acres, and is it contiguous with the district, with an industrial district? Then if the answers to those questions are yes, the big questions are, does it comply with your comp plan and development procedures? Does it benefit the district, and does it, and the property owners in that area? So you have to kind of consider the public at large, the property owners in the area of rezone, and the comp plan. So we don't have to look at the landscaping plan at this juncture. That would be, when this development.
It's more of a curiosity question about the trees.
A lot of information to
Yeah.
the question.
I can answer that in a roundabout way.
I'm curious if we know of any rules, if it's allowed, you can bury trees whenever you clear cut a lot like was done here, because there were some test holes, and one of the test holes they dug down 10.5 feet and found junk fill wood, which means that whenever, and I remember watching this lot get cleared over time. It basically, it's pretty common practice of developers or home builders to bury the trees on the lot. Do you know of any rules around that inside the city specifically?
I do not know, but that does not mean anything. If
That's
if
okay.
I'm looking at a specific property, I would go for the code. I haven't done that, so I don't want to.
That's all the questions I have.
Any other discussion by the commission? All in favor of approving resolution serial 2314, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. I need a motion to enter the committee of the whole.
Commissioner Stafford, I move that we enter the committee of the whole.
Commissioner Crafton, second.
We are now in the committee of the whole. Ms. Nygard, do you have any comments regarding these items?
Not at this time, but I will tell you that in the conversations that I have had with developers, whenever a piece of legislation comes across your desk that takes quite a bit of time, it causes the contractors to try to have a secondary plan ready to go if the first one doesn't get planned. And so the sooner that we can bring some resolution to some sanity and reasonability, I think would really be appreciated by the marketplace.
Thank you. Any commission comments?
Commissioner Stafford, I'll start. I know the landscape committee spent a lot of time on this. I'm glad the public showed up to comment. I don't know if they were involved with the landscape review committee when they were working on this. I hope they were. But as I understand it, when we do pass this, it then goes to the city council, or if we do, or whatever we do with it, it would then go to the city council for them to act upon it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, yeah.
Well, hearing the comments from the audience and the comments that I've received over the past several years on this, I believe that we should have a meeting with the city council, which is planned for the end of this month, to find out from the city council and the commission what direction the city needs to take on this landscape ordinance. What we have before us is even more complicated than the plan that we had. I think it should be redesigned for the marketplace, for business. So I would hate to try and pass any of this landscape resolution until we have the joint meeting.
Chair, can I make some comments along?
Yes, you can.
One thing I want to just address with the commission is Title 16 at the joint meeting, and just want to clarify for the public as well, will address Title 16 various provisions regarding permitting and a lot of the requirements that are laid out and have been recently adopted in Title 16 that have been causing some confusion in reality when they're applied. And so one of the things that will be front and center is what the commission and the council see as objectives regarding landscaping and regulation in general. And that will be a great time to delve into the landscaping ordinance, and not at the meeting so much, but in the context of Title 16, once those objectives and goals are identified, so that your entire Title 16 is consistent, user-friendly, transparent, and the commission and the council and the public can really navigate through it with ease. I think that is one of the main goals. So I would recommend, and I think this is what you were saying, Chair, but recommend postponing this and then picking, and then once you have that goal-setting meeting with the public and the council, this product hasn't gone anywhere and it can be picked back up, and whether it's an ordinance or even in a sort of best practices plan, that can be taken up after that Title 16 effort.
That's basically what I was trying to get across, that trying to work on this tonight is not really going to be relevant until we have that meeting and clarify the direction the city wants to go. I mean, we've heard pretty loud comments tonight from the public that there's been a lot of issues and problems with this, and so I would like to wait, especially since we have a new member, and go forward after we've had our meeting.
I have a question. Last meeting we had, we didn't have this on our agenda, and I had asked why. It was because we had that, at that time we didn't know if we had a joint meeting coming up or not. Is there a reason why this was put back on the agenda, since now we know we had that joint meeting coming up? Do we know why it was put on the agenda?
I think one reason was the administration wanted to, we weren't sure at the time, we were without a planner. We have an acting planner, of course, but as we move forward, the city administration's looking at hiring a permanent planner and getting those pieces in place. So it was an opportunity, putting it on the agenda was an opportunity to address it. Now that we have a few more pieces, like a scheduled joint meeting, and we didn't want it to just fall off your radar, and to make sure that you knew, because our last direction from the commission was we were going to go through a sort of bifurcated 4-part consideration and discussion of the ordinance with the commission, and we didn't want to disregard that direction. We wanted to recommend another option given the change in the playing field. I mean, one of the things we'd really like the commission to have is the recommendations and guidance of a knowledgeable planning director when you delve into landscaping. So it would be appropriate, for example, to postpone discussions of the landscaping resolution, or you can, because of where it's listed on the agenda, you can also just sort of move to stay any revisions to the code ending the joint meeting on Title 16. That's another option for the commission, just so that we have an opportunity to be very deliberate and precise and really engage the public, the commission, and the council as you consider changes.
So from the information I have about our joint meeting, the main objective of the meeting is to review the comp plan, also Title 16, and it doesn't specifically say the landscape code as Title 16, or it's Title 16 as a whole chapter. We only have one meeting scheduled. I mean, how long are we going to continue pushing this off until we can get to it, or is it going to have to be in a joint meeting like that, or does it sound like we're waiting until we have a city planner to be able to do? I just don't want to keep. I get it was worked on for a year, but I think this is the third or fourth time it's been on our meeting agenda, and we haven't done anything with it, honestly.
And I think so. I'm going to be as candid as I can. I mean, I think one of the things that we see is, in some ways, a misalignment of the goals and objectives as expressed by council, the commission, and the public, and the language of the code. And it appears that Wasilla is a community that wants to limit regulation in order to incentivize development. Yet your code is the regulations provided in your code are pretty extreme. There's a lot of regulations, a heavy regulation-based model, right? But what you expressed regarding your objectives and goals, and I accept certain overlay districts from this. I think that the goals and objectives in your comp plan, for example, regarding downtown districts, the downtown overlay district, that's intended to really create a regulated area that has this particular culture and purpose and community-based goals, and that's in your comp plan. A lot of these other regulations do not seem to necessarily reflect clearly what the objectives, goals, and priorities are. And so the hope is that Title 16, which also has a lot of outdated permitting and procedures, and the hope is to have a joint meeting in which everybody recognizes and expresses sort of those overlying objectives. And that allows us to go through Title 16 and match those objectives and discuss what those objectives are and really what you're doing and your use chart, which is also on that agenda. That's an opportunity for us to say, this is what you can actually do in this district. Is that really what you want? Is that what you intended? And this is what you can actually do here. And this is how you do it. And this is what happens if we use this permitting procedure. This is what that really means to that permit applicant. Is that what we really want to do? Is that what we were trying to accomplish? And so through that work session, which will be difficult to, like, mentally we're all going to have to really engage and have a very real conversation about where you want to go and make some sausage. I don't know how else to say it, and that's, and I think that's going to be an important exercise. What comes from that is the direction to look at Title 16 and draft an ordinance that reflects those goals, that encompasses all the hard work that you see from the landscaping committee, that encompasses some of the ordinances that were recently adopted, for example, for short-term rentals, but does it in a way that reflects what your your actual goals and objectives are as expressed in your planning documents, your comp plan, so that, you know, you have a title that people understand, they know exactly how to execute it, and the commission knows how to govern. It was a more loaded question than you thought, but that's the goal of that joint meeting. And with a new planner coming on, that also is, we want to make sure we get that planner, you know, involved and engaged in that process. I don't know if your acting planner has anything to add. I just said a lot, and I don't want to speak for administration, but that's.
And so I would just like to add, the market clearly understands there's a disconnect from what we say we are and what they have to internally experience. And I think it's really vital, and part of the reason why we serve like we do is so we listen to get all the facts and listen to the market. The market has shifted very fast. Shifting before COVID happened. It's relatively, our numbers are not going to go backwards, and we probably aren't going to be stable. It's going to continue to have a lot of growth, and so we need to be very aligned with what growth looks like here in Wasilla. If we want to attract the dollars from anywhere else in the state, we have to be pretty intentional, and we have to create something that is consistent and doesn't say one thing and they experience another thing when they come to get that first permit.
I've been involved in this for several years. Kept wanting to simplify, make it more business friendly, and what we have in front of us is even more complicated and convoluted than we originally started out with and intended to. So kicking this stack of paper down the road is going to be in the best interest of not only the businesses and citizens of the city. This needs some major gutting. So I would like to at least postpone going through this until after we've had our joint meeting, and we can all have a clear picture of what we want, and we can get something that is, I basically would like to see it in 25 pages. That might be unrealistic, but that's what I was asking for, and several commissioners were asking for, was a simplified version that fit business is open in Wasilla. So at this time, I think we should once again pass it down the road and wait until after our joint meeting. Is there any concurrence?
Need a motion to postpone? We need a motion, right?
I think if you do, yes, if you do a motion to postpone it, you don't put a date on it, what it does in essence is kill the, and I use that term very lightly, but that does not prevent us from bringing the resolution or with a new number back with, as it's revised. So, but that just, because we don't have a date certain, a motion to postpone will.
So you're saying we need a date, or we can do it?
If you don't do a date, it means that for right now, this resolution is not going to be before planning anymore. It'll come off the agenda, so it's not going to come back at a date certain in the future. So they say that kills the motion. It's basically denying the resolution at this time. So
September then?
Which again, it doesn't mean, what you can do too is you can move to postpone, and if the commission chooses to do that, you can also direct the administration to revisit the landscaping resolution with the commission within 60 days of the joint meeting or something like that. So that gets it on your in front of you again, and we can talk about what that looks like, what instrument that looks like.
And at that point, we'll have more direction too.
Yes. But I think your clerk has a.
Oh, sorry.
We're in the committee of the whole, so it's not on the agenda. So if you want to make a motion, you have to.
Oh, that's right, we have an action.
Yeah, we're not on
It's just in
the,
the committee of the whole.
Yeah,
It's not
it's-
on the agenda for approval or denial.
no, we don't need, that's what I thought, we don't need a motion.
It's on your,
It's under new business.
It's in the
Yes.
committee of the whole.
Discuss amendments regarding.
It's just, committee of the whole is just discussion. It's not for approval or denial of any legislation.
Okay, so if we just exit committee of the whole,
Then you're just good to go, and then it's not up for approval or denial.
could we make a motion, like we said, within 60 days of our joint meeting to put it back on the agenda? So it
You
doesn't
don't
get.
need a motion to do that.
No.
Alrighty.
Can I
you
ask?
can just direct,
Yes,
direct-
staff, yeah, just let staff know.
I know there was a landscape committee that worked on this for over a year. Do we feel like they failed in simplifying it then? Or, I mean, I'm not trying to denigrate anyone on that committee, but I guess I'm just, I listened to some of the stuff and I know they were hashing it through. I thought they were trying to simplify it, but you said your opinion was it's even worse now. So I'm just curious what the point of that committee was then if they produced a product that no one likes.
Well, part of the situation with that committee was that the former planner was at every committee meeting, and basically, I think she was steering the committee, and that's why we ended up with something that's even more complicated.
Okay. I appreciate that input.
Initially, we had asked for the committee because when we were going through the original document, I don't know, and you weren't here, or
Right.
Ms. Cottle, or even Mr. Crafton. We were like, look, we're not landscapers. And, I mean, I cut my grass, that's about it. So and at one of the final meetings on this, we had actual people that are in the business that came up and, gave some testimony and some ideas. So we thought it would be a good idea, since they're the ones that do the work. They would look at, I think it was Anchorage and Palmer and maybe somewhere else, I can't remember, but they were supposed to look at all of that and then try and simplify it and come up with something that was a little easier on the businesses here in the city. And doesn't look like that happened, because I try to read through this and I mean, I went to graduate school and I can't stay awake on it.
Can I make a quick comment on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
When I read through this, it made me feel like I was back managing several commercial businesses in Anchorage, and what I dealt with Anchorage's rules and regulations for landscaping that were so utterly ridiculous that it put us off 2 years doing businesses. And at the time, Wasilla was open for business, very definitely. They were much more user-friendly than Anchorage. When I read through this and how cumbersome this was, I felt like I was back in Anchorage.
This is
And that's
actually,
not what we want.
this is actually more complicated than Anchorage.
But this is, when I went through this line by line, it was like, my God, I'm back doing business in Anchorage again, and it was horrible.
I appreciate the history on that. Like I said, not being part of the time, but I appreciate the history and the insight on that.
Melvin and I have
agree
been
as well.
involved in this for,
Too long.
yeah.
We had Dr. Larson come in at one point and make some comments, and I maybe I misunderstood, but at that time it sounded like this was simplified, like Mr. Stafford had said. So I guess where is it? Again, reading through it.
I actually did those off a couple of times going through it.
It's really hard to read through it, and again, looking at a strike-through version, looking at the non-strike-through version. Again, one way or another, I think, I mean, I agree at the end of the day as well, it's too difficult. I think any average, I use that term lightly, any average business owner should be able to pick this up and know how to do this without hiring a professional landscaper. Because again, there comes a point where I believe you do need a landscaper if you're doing a large enough project. But for the average small business owner, we'll say it should be simple enough, and not. I mean, I'll tell you right now, it's not simple enough. So I mean, do we need another landscape code committee or landscape committee? I don't want to go there. But I'm just saying, I mean, I understand after the meeting, are we going to know more as to if we're going to do that, or if we're going to start ripping this thing apart and trim it, and, you know, trimming the fat, we'll say?
I mean, I would say, so at the joint meeting, one of the things we're going to be doing is setting you're going to look at what your district chart is and what your comp plan says and what your purpose statements are and say, does that align with what our code, how it actually functions in our community? And if the answer is no, and if you want something more simple, then I think what we'll be looking at is relying on your administration and the planner and legal to a certain extent, and also the products that you have created, like the landscaping ordinance, to bring back something that is consistent and harmonious with those goals, which will be and is consistent and lawful under, and makes sense under the law as well. And then hopefully is something very simple. It's a starting place that is peeled back and allows the commission to take each of these areas that matter to the public or that the commission feels is necessary, like landscaping, and decide, okay, what do we need as our bones? And then what do we need to supplement based on what Wasilla really needs and wants, and that we can actually, explain or justify. And there may be a component there where you say, what we would love to have, though, is a blue ribbon plan, a best practices plan, that if you adopt that plan, that somehow is taken into consideration, for example, in a conditional use permit process or something above and beyond. And maybe that becomes something where you can incorporate a lot of the very knowledgeable, skill-based advice and information that was proposed through the landscaping. And so things like that, thinking a little bit outside of the box to make sure you develop something Wasilla is really proud of and does what Wasilla has been wanting and the commission has been wanting and trying to do. I think that's the goal. So I know that's very nebulous, but I don't think throwing out any product or starting over is the intention of the joint meeting. It's more, let's figure out what we're actually trying to do and what our code should actually say and do, and then figure out the tools and instruments we have to draft and adopt.
Well, we heard tonight from some powerful people in the business community in the valley here, and they're needing, and the city is needing something that we can all work with and live with.
I think that this conversation and the public showing up too, that's another really great thing. So then the commission can decide, do we want to have public hearings? Do we want to add some hearings where we're talking about this piece, or do we want to talk about it as a whole? And so we're going to, but looking at it as our land use, but instead of looking at these components of the land use, I think it'll, at the end of that process, there's going to be a product that the commission can really own and understand, and
the public can own and understand.
Exactly. And that is the word.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I will say, so one of the things, though, I did check with the city clerk just to find out how we should address the resolution, because I like to hear, I was a little confused just on the process, and I think what would be best here, just to be clear, is to make a motion to adopt the resolution, or a motion to postpone the resolution, and then discuss the reasons for postponement and vote on it. And that way, it makes it very clear where the resolution has gone and what's happening.
And that would happen after we exit the committee of the whole, correct?
Yeah, you can exit the committee of the whole and then make that motion. Does that sound?
All right, I need a motion to exit the committee of the whole.
Commissioner Crafton moves to exit committee of the whole.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Sajal, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Crafton moves to postpone this review of the landscape, well, I guess it's 301 resolution?
23-13?
Yeah, I think it's 2330.
Oh, 13, there it is. That's why it looked like the one again. Sorry, 2313. Did we need to put a date on it, we said? Or can we do with it? No date. No date.
We have a second to Commissioner Crafton's motion.
Commissioner Sejal, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. There's no unfinished business, so communications. Permit information. Enforcement log. Matt Niskus is in the Borough Planning Commission agenda. We're moving down pretty fast here. Don't see any audience comments. Staff comments?
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to let all of the commissioners know that we have engaged a contractor to come in and make a final assessment of how we can put our maps online. We've got a technology partnering agreement with the boroughs, so we're going to utilize their ARC mapping tool to put our layer over theirs. So if you are looking at property and you don't know if it's in Wasilla, and you click on it, it will say you are in the city limits. It will specify if there's a particular zone and what is allowed or what is not allowed. And so we will be working on that here in the next 60 days to provide some of those online tools for our residents.
Commissioner Crafton here. So that's in reference to the Matsu Boroughs parcel viewer, right?
Yes.
So this is going, I mean, there's already the designation, like you can see what is city and what's not city, but you're saying in the next 60 days it's going to be implemented, like it will be functioning that way?
Yes.
Okay, and it will, so instead of it being like just showing a line around the city, it will be when I click on a property, it will flag it more or less.
R1, R2.
R2 and City of Wasilla as well.
Yes, so
Like,
you
it will
will have all the information.
it'll be a little bit more clear instead of going zooming back out and going, is this within the line? As to how it is currently.
So we will be bringing those as we increment and we build this, we'll have you test it, and hopefully it's just something we continue to hear is I'd like to know what's allowed in R1, especially short-term rentals. People are really thinking about that right now, and where is it allowed, why is it not allowed? So it'd be best to know if it was allowed before you purchased property.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of calls, both
Right.
as a commissioner and as a realtor. Is this in the City of Wasilla? Yes, it is. What are the zoning? Here, let me show you. Let me tell you how to find it, so you don't have to call me next time. But while I'm at it, here, let me just tell you.
So we're working on that, and so just say a prayer for us that we get through that.
Any other staff comments?
No comment.
Let's move to commission comments. Any comments by the commission?
I love landscaping.
No comments.
Commissioner Crafton here. I just want to thank everybody that came out today and put forward their comments again. As we know, sometimes we don't have anybody that shows up, and we're like, all right, I guess by not saying anything, that's sometimes the public saying what they think about it. It's just move forward with it. I did have a question going back to my tree burying question earlier. Are we able to find out if that's somewhere in there?
Yeah, we can provide you sort of the code provisions on exactly.
That's what I'm wondering.
What is, but a lot of times too, it depends on whether or not there's a permitting or other process for exempting or mitigating or amending the requirement. So that's the concern, is that when you make a comment regarding a specific prohibition or permission, a lot of times there's a lot of ways a lot of things that change whether or not that it's actually going to be required. So what we can do is just we can shoot you the code provision that's applicable, and to the extent there's any flexibility, we can
That would be good. The reason why I ask is, again, being a realtor and dealing with a lot of new construction in the valley here, it's become kind of a known problem where we are seeing people bury trees, stumps on the property, and it creates more or less kind of like I wouldn't call it a sinkhole, but it's the property. I mean, years later, as that material decomposes, it drops it, and in one case here during the applicant's application there, it looked like that was even a consideration for them as to why they had to go industrial here, is because of this material being buried. It actually makes the property unusable, and without them having to then extract all of that material and refilling that area so that they could then, in theory, build something on the property. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm curious where it's at, and if it was something we wanted to consider saying, hey, like, builders going forward, that's inside the city of Wasilla, you shouldn't be burying anything like that. That's an unacceptable thing to do, in my opinion. So I'd love to see the information on it. That's all for me.
Well, my comment tonight is Wasilla doesn't have a green problem. Wasilla doesn't have an asphalt problem. Wasilla has a regulation problem.
No comment.
That's my comment. Hearing no other business to come before the commission, this meeting is adjourned. And make sure the attorney gets one of these.
She did.
I
was chuckling at it.
Cool thing.
She
this
gets
is
it.
going on my dashboard.
I don't know.
And she looks at it like, what is
That's what people think when they look at all these regulations. What is this?
This is like perfect for today.
Except it should probably be cross-eyed after looking at it.
I know, right?
Good sign. So that's just the.
Welcome to the planning commission.
Thank you very much.
I'm Melvin.
Good to be here, Kathy.
Kathy, nice meeting you.
Your handwriting, because
I know several properties within the city that years ago, there was stumps and trees buried,
Yeah.
and they're dealing with
'Cause
those
our house-
issues now.
We bought our house about 20 years ago, and, well, it was already there, and it was already landscaped, so I didn't even know it.
You won't know. You
Well,
don't know until you find out.
Yeah, I know now.
Well, I drove by when they were building ours and saw that, and I called my realtor, and she said, no, that's just how it works. Your stumps are on the next property, and their stumps, the property on their side, their stumps are buried on yours. And it did, it sunk.
You can sometimes
Probably
lose.
5 feet.
Yeah, I've seen people 10 feet.
Yeah.
I've seen it drop 10